So it starts cracking, cracking, cracking. You're both trying to grab as many cookies as possible. Then usually one person says, I'm done with this cookie jar. I want to go make a cookie jar with someone else, or I just don't want to make it with you anymore because the pain in maintaining the integrity of the cookie jar is no longer worth what the cookies are giving me. Because there are microscopic little bits of the cookie still left on the glass. So you're grabbing broken glass and you're like, where's the cookie? And there's like a little fucking crumb and you're like, oh, just trying to get that one last little bit, and that's your imagination and your memory. So the way that you get over any breakup or any relationship, right? Because it's not the breakup you're trying to get over, it's the relationship being gone, which I know seems like a very simple idea, like duh, but if you think about it, there's actually a difference there. I want to get over a breakup. No, you want to get over a lost relationship. And if you want to get over a lost relationship, then you need to wonder why you're still attached to that relationship. And in order to understand why you're attached to a relationship, you have to understand the mechanisms of attachment. Why do you still want that thing? That's all that you're reminiscing and daydreaming and listening to sad music and crying and wishing, blah, 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 blah. All of that suffering and crying in your bed and wishing and wanting and hoping, all of that is just attachment to a thing that is no longer here. The reasons why it didn't work out are a completely different subject for a completely different video. And there are skills to maintain relationships and to prevent them from falling apart. But that's not what this video is about. I'm not going to teach you how to get her back. I'm not going to teach you how to learn lessons of what you did wrong and what she did wrong. I'm only going to explain how to get over the suffering that you're feeling right now. Then once you're over the suffering, you can look back at the relationship and learn some lessons from it. But you can't see clearly right now. So you need to first get out of the rain and the thunderstorm, and then you can look back on when you were in it and what you can learn from it. So the metaphor that I'm going to help you understand with is very, very simple. And I'll explain it in detail after, but if you just understand the metaphor, you'll get everything I'm talking about. So the relationship is a cookie jar. And it's created by a half a glass created by you and a half of a glass created by her. And you use this magical glue we call attachment, right? Love, connection, bonding, pair bonding, oxytocin, getting released during lovemaking, whatever. All of these things that create an attachment, okay? She likes the same movies as me. We have the same favorite color, whatever it is. There's a cookie inside the cookie jar. When you were in a relationship, you both could reach in and fondle the cookie and take it out and take bites of it. And there's one cookie, there's a lot of cookies, whatever. Take the metaphor however the fuck you want. The relationship broke for whatever reason. It's crumbled now, okay? So it's a pile of glass, right? Kind of, maybe there's like some lingering like large pieces, right? But it's broken. What you are doing right now, why you are suffering so much, is because you are reaching your hand to grab the cookie in the cookie jar, and you're getting cut with broken glass. The vessel by which you experience things together, the cookies, is broken. And so you're trying to reach into the past and grab something, but you have to go through broken glass to get it. But the metaphor is actually quite deep because the cookie isn't there anymore, and you're just reaching your hand into broken glass, thinking that you're going to find a cookie in there. Okay, so that's the metaphor. If you can take your time, pause the video and go, okay, what's this douchebag on YouTube trying to tell me? And you think about each part that I just explained, you'll get the whole entire video, okay? So the rest of the video is just going to be explaining in detail that metaphor. And then the important part, of course, is you can figure it out yourself, but I'm going to tell you what to do to unlatch those attachments and why you feel that it's a good idea to reach into the cookie jar even though it's just broken glass and there's no cookie in there. There's a reason why you're doing it. It's not because you're stupid. It's because you're not understanding what you're doing. You're just following a bad pattern of behavior because you're looking for pleasure that you no longer have. So let's explain the metaphor in a little bit more detail, and then we're going to go over some strategies on how to get rid of it. How to get rid of your wrong strategy of reaching into the cookie jar. Okay, so you have your half of the cookie jar, which is all of your personality, your values, your sense of humor, your sexiness, your charisma, everything that you consider a personality is a bunch of small little shards of glass that are formed together into this thing you call you, right? Hector, okay? So Hector is comprised of a bunch of little pieces of glass that I call my personality, but that's really just a bunch of characteristics, feelings, thoughts, habits, etc. melded together, and then there's a body here, and you take this as a person, as a one identity thing, right? But it's a bunch of things together. Let's use me as an example, right? So let's take it away from you so you can see it from a third person point of view, which is really how you want to be seeing it. Here's Hector, and then here's whoever he was in love with. So we talk to each other, we meet each other. Maybe it's really fast connection, maybe it's a slow connection. We start to talk, get to know each other better. We have sex, chemicals, blah, 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 blah. Our karma is connected, whatever. Okay. Now, while we were doing this and getting to know each other, there was a cookie or cookies that we were enjoying together, right? We were loving each other's cookies. Then the cookie jar formed into a thing we call a relationship. We got serious. We had to talk, whatever. So now we're all like, okay, we're going to store all of our cookies in here and give the majority of our cookies to each other because you're spending a lot of time together. So, you give your cookies to a lot of people, but you're giving specific cookies to her and she's giving specific cookies to you. Mostly, if you're in a monogamous relationship, the sexual connection, right? You're not having sex with your homie, you're having sex with this girl. You give your homies and your family and the people that you enjoy in your life, your friends, you give them cookies, but you give very specific cookies to this woman, and these cookies are very deep and personal. So these cookies are important. They're special cookies. They're double layered chocolate chip with M&Ms sprinkled, whatever, right? So when you enjoy things together, you hang out and eat pizza and have sex and watch Netflix or go on a vacation together or, get drunk together and blah, 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 whatever, whatever it is you do in the relationship. You guys are like, it's cookie time. So you get together and you both jump into the cookie jar and just start eating cookies. Then, as with most relationships, for X and Y and Z reason, you guys start to fall apart. And it's usually both people's fault to a certain extent. So the glass starts cracking. You're both desperately trying to get as much cookies as you can before it goes away. That's why people don't break up when they first realize that they have to break up. Some relationships are worth salvaging. This is a totally different issue, but some relationships, it's time to break up, but there's like a delay on the bomb, right? I remember for my first 3 serious relationships, I knew it was over, but it didn't actually end until 6 months later because I didn't want to hurt her. I wasn't sure, but I knew because I looked back and I was like, I knew at that moment it was done. It just took time for it to actually happen. So it starts cracking. You're both trying to grab as many cookies as possible. Then usually one person says, I'm done with this cookie jar. I want to go make a cookie jar with someone else, or I just don't want to make it with you anymore because the pain in maintaining the integrity of the cookie jar is no longer worth what the cookies are giving me. Let's say that again. The cookies are not delicious enough and awesome enough to justify the amount of effort I have to take, using a fucking blowtorch to weld the glass to keep it together because it's falling apart that quickly, okay? Or it was a death by 1,000 little cuts, There's a lot of different ways it falls apart. So you, being the heartbroken one, usually the person who does the breaking up is heartbroken for a less amount of time because they have relinquished their desire for the cookies. But you, the heartbroken one, because you're the one watching this video, you miss those cookies. And you are desperate for those cookies. However, the cookie jar is broken now. She has vacated her effort in maintaining it. She left you with her half, all right? Because what we are is an amalgamation of things. So she actually left you with her half of the cookie jar, but it's fucking broken, right? It's all on the floor, or maybe there's some shards that are left. That's what makes you like, oh, what if we can, maybe get back together? Maybe she still cares about me. Because usually, unless she's a psychopath, she usually has some sort of connection still with you. That's what her leftover glass is. But she has decided to walk away and to not maintain it. Then eventually, that glass will disintegrate and it will be nothing but microfibers of glass, really, really small shards of glass. It'll always still be there a little bit, right? You never quite lose your mark on someone else, which is maybe beautiful to some of you. I think it's kind of just even more attachment that I want to get over, but whatever, that we're going into huge different ideals of like what love and attachment really are at like their most fundamental form. So she left her shards of glass, and you're now doing the work of two people. And that's a huge amount of work. That's why it's so painful, right? You're trying to maintain that relationship actively, even though she's not there maintaining it anymore. That's part of why you so desperately want her back, because you're doing the work of two people and it's really fucking tiring. And the way that you're doing this work to maintain the jar is you're using your imagination and your memories, because she's not actually there to cooperate in the cookie jar cookie experience, right? You're sitting there thinking you're eating cookies, and at the same time, you know, picturing her here with you, like you're almost hallucinating, because you're it's real, like these memories are real, but like you're replaying memories of times, you know, you made love or you spent time together, you're holding hands and you're like, oh, it was so beautiful. Oh. And I'm making fun of you a little bit to bring a little bit of a sense of humor. I want, like I said, I want you to see it from a third person point of view. Oh, it's supposed to be me, right? Okay. I won't bully you, I'll bully myself, right? Oh, I'm sitting here, right? I'm just going to think about some of my exes. Oh my God, I miss you so much. And I'm imagining her with me, you know, doing whatever it is I liked her doing to me or me doing to her. And that's how I maintain the illusion of the continuation of the cookie jar and the cookies. But this is an operation that you cannot continue to have. It will suck the life out of you. It will destroy you. You won't be able to work. You won't be able to find another cookie jar with someone else. And you won't realize that you don't really need a cookie jar to enjoy the cookies, right? But that's a very advanced idea, right? And if you take it to the full extreme, you'll be a fully enlightened being, because you'll realize you don't need any cookie jars to eat the cookie. But that's another subject for another day. So I want you to see the metaphor very clearly, that you, watching those sad movies, listening to sad music, sitting around crying. Look, you got to do what you got to do. If you got to feel those emotions, feel those emotions. Don't deny the emotions. But don't have this stupid idea that, oh, I need to like feel them fully in order to let them go. No, that's somewhat true. You need to feel them. But the moment you are going into memories and going into like imaginations, that's when you're going too far and you're just feeding the attachment. But of course, the way we learn to let go of attachment is to play with the attachment enough till we learn that we are just cutting our hand by playing with broken glass, okay? So do whatever self-therapy you need to do. Watch Netflix, watch sad movies, listen to sad music. But eventually, after 6 months or a year, or even years, right, you need to sit there and in the midst of your suffering realize, I am cutting myself with these shards of glass because I keep reaching into the cookie jar, right? Your hand is just brutalized. Like, I just want you to see, like, there's so many cuts on it. And there's, like, old cuts, new cuts, you know, very, very recent cuts. You're still bleeding right now. And go, okay, the only way I'm going to stop bleeding is to stop playing with this glass. Like, you're literally, like, having your eyes closed in your imagination and you're just grabbing glass. And you're like, oh, the cookie. But you're just cutting yourself. And it's very painful, and you shouldn't be doing that to yourself. But you don't see that you're doing it to yourself because there are microscopic little bits of the cookie still left on the glass. So you're grabbing broken glass, and you're like, where's the cookie? And there's like a little fucking crumb, and you're like, oh, you know, just trying to get that one last little bit, you know, and that's your imagination and your memory. And it's pretty sad when you think about it. And that's not meant to make you feel worse, like, oh, I'm an idiot, you know? See, I'm that kind of person, right? Once you realize you did something stupid, then I'm upset that I let myself be so stupid for so long. And it's like, oh my God, get over it. I hope I'm coming off compassionate. I'm not making you feel worse. But maybe sometimes you have to feel a little bit worse before you feel better. That's also a phenomenon. So, okay, cookie jar, cookie. What you did wrong was 3 things, right? 1, you idealized her half of the glass. You also believed that the glass jar is the thing allowing you to have the cookie. You don't need a glass jar to enjoy cookies. It just puts it in a location where you can always go, oh yeah, I want cookies. Let's go to the cookie jar. And so you go and hang out with them. You make plans with them. You go on a date. You invite her over, or you're living together, or you're married. And so you bring the cookie jar as close to you as possible so you can always get into the cookies. And unless you're going to be a monk and give up relationships, you're going to be doing that. I mean, even me too, right? But I understand what I'm doing, right? I understand that I'm creating attachment. So you believe that, first of all, the cookie jar is really important. It's not. The relationship isn't important, right? You can enjoy the cookie regardless of the relationship, right? But that's, like I said, that's a separate issue. So the only thing you really need to be focusing on is that you're thinking it's that cookie jar, which is important. You're thinking, and it's her half of the glass that's really important, right? Her. Because that's all she was to you, really. You can never fully understand another person. You can only see the universe through a first-person perspective of this body, these thoughts, these feelings, da-da-da. You can have people communicate things to you, and you can attempt to empathize and understand and go into their mind by imagining experiences that they have and really getting to know them. But you'll never truly, fully experience someone else's reality the way that they experience it, and vice versa. So really, the closest that you can get to another person is their half of the glass, right? So in a sense, you are really obsessed with them, but in another way, you're only obsessed with the glass that they created, their half of the glass. And very likely you're over-idealizing it, right? And you were also over-idealizing the cookie jar itself. Not in the sense of, oh, I have to get over the need for a relationship and only eat the cookie and be totally satisfied with my own existence. No, that's very difficult to do and outside the scope of this video. What I mean is, you think that that relationship is necessary. You're going to start getting what I'm hinting at, right? So the solution to these two fallacies that you have fallen for is very simple. You need to look at the flaws that she had, and you need to look at the flaws that the relationship had. So her literal flaws in any sense of the way. I'm not telling you to look down on her. So don't create false flaws. I'm saying look accurately at who she is and see that she is not the perfect person that you think she is. So she is not worth this level of idealization. Even if she is an amazing person, no one can be 100% awesome. Even the greatest human being who's ever lived can only be 99% awesome in terms of a relationship, right? So there's going to be something wrong with her. What I need you to do is focus on that. Because once you realize that a person is not perfect, you realize they are not worth all of the suffering that you are allowing them to inflict upon you. But they're not doing it, you're doing it to yourself, right? So I don't want you to blame them either. So be very careful with this. Do not blame them in the sense where it starts to make you angry. That might happen, but I don't want you to take it too far and then put all the responsibility on them. Give them the responsibility that they had because of their flaws, but don't put blame on them. There's a distinction there, and it's very important for you to maybe meditate on that. So start looking at her flaws in every way. Oh my God, I'll never get a woman as beautiful as her again. Go look at her. What did she look like when she woke up without any makeup on? What did she look like, as she started to get older? What did she look like, after she was sweaty and got back from the gym, or she was, actually sleeping and snoring and looking like a fucking rodent. Think very, very clearly if she really is this perfect 10 out of 10 goddess that you thought she was. And even if she is, okay, fine. I have to admit that she's fucking gorgeous, right? But there are other women on this earth that are just as beautiful as her. Maybe in a different way, right? One woman might be a 10 out of 10 when it comes to looking like Ariana Grande, kind of that petite, cute, but sexy look. Well, you can find a girl who's a 10 out of 10 with a different type of look. Maybe tall and slender, or tall and busty, who knows? You'll find a girl who's just as beautiful, maybe in a different way. Or you can find a girl who's just as hot as her and has the same kind of look as her, because you have a type. That's you, that's you. There are women out there who look just as good as her. Okay? So even if she's a 10 out of 10, there's other 10 out of 10s. And that should allow you to transpose your attachment, and instead of suffering, you can at least, you're still attached at the end of the day, but at least you're not going to be sitting there crying in your bed. Shift your attachment to, okay, well, I can find someone just as hot and just as beautiful. It's better than whatever you're doing right now, okay? So start looking for that new girl, right? Or just realize that there is potential for another girl who's just as awesome as her. And if you think I'm wrong and you think your girl is special, you're an idiot. But that's okay. One day you'll learn if you're willing to be honest with yourself. So Then move on to the personality. Is she 10 out of 10 smart? Is she 10 out of 10 charismatic, funny? What's her dick sucking game like? You know, what's her twerking game like? Is she good in bed? Is she anything that you have a value or that you value in another person? Ask yourself, is she a 10 out of 10? No, she's going to have some flaws. Focus on those flaws. Just focus on them. This is actually a form of Buddhist meditation, right? So when you're dealing with sexual lust, what the Buddha would advise people to do is something called asubha meditation. And what you do is you actually look at the human body and you go, you want to put your dick in that. But think about what the human body actually is. Take the skin off, just in your mind, imagine. Already you're like, oh yeah, would you want to put your dick in that? Now she looks like something from fucking Hellraiser, right? So she was a 10 out of 10 IG model a second ago. Now she's a walking, stinking pile of blood and muscle and bone and dripping shit and urine. Like, this is what he would teach you to do. Now, eventually what you would do is you would create this balance of, there are beautiful parts about the human body, but there's also ugly parts about it. And you create this perfect balance of equanimity, and then you move beyond attachment to that. But that's super difficult, like I said, beyond the scope of this video. But I wanted to let you know that this is a form of meditation that's very powerful. If it's powerful enough to move you towards nirvana, it's powerful enough to get you over your fucking girlfriend or your ex-wife, okay? So start looking at her flaws, physically and personality-wise, and her relationship skills as well, right? Someone can be great and hot and beautiful, but they're just not good at relationships, because you have to have relationship skills, okay? Now, you're gonna slowly practice. It's a practice thing. It's not gonna happen in one day. And it might take 6 months to a year, but eventually it will work. Then, the relationship itself, I want you to look at it, right? So that was the combination of you and all of your things, and her and all of those things connecting with each other. You can have someone who's perfect, and someone who's perfect, and they create something that looks perfect, but there's flaws. Because with all conditioned phenomenon, there are going to be flaws in them. So start looking at what were the flaws of the relationship. Was it communication? Was it the sex? Was it you two had different temperaments? Like, she's a homebody and you're more of an active, want to go out and do things, or vice versa. There was something not quite perfect in the relationship. Was she annoying? Did she talk too much? Did she talk too little? Was she unemotional? Was she overly emotional? And how did that synthesize with you, right? They may not be personality flaws in and of themselves, so the first exercise, but they became flaws in interactions with your personality. So start criticizing the cookie jar. Well, that's a shitty fucking, it's cheap ass glass. You know, that's fucking made in China glass, right? I need some made in America glass, right? It wasn't painted. It was just a boring glass. Like, I wanted some fucking blue tinted, pimped out glass, right? It wasn't a pimped out awesome glass. I want cool glass. I don't want this shitty glass. I had shitty quality glass and she had great quality glass. So I need to improve myself as a person. That's a possible thing. Like, maybe she was awesome and you just fucking suck. Well, that's great. Well, then you need to improve yourself. Beating yourself up about it's just going to make you continue being shitty. But you're probably not that shitty because she chose to be with you. And it probably wasn't just because she had low self-esteem. There was something about you that she liked being with, right? So if you think, oh, she was awesome and I'm a piece of shit, I was so lucky to get with her. That's probably the biggest one, right? It's like, I was so lucky, I'm never going to get lucky like that again. Well, there was something that you were doing that made her want to be with you. If she was so awesome, if she's beautiful and hot, she has a lot of options. She chose to be with you for whatever reason, okay? And if you want to make yourself better, just find out the reasons she broke up with you and fix those. But then, oh, maybe I can get her back. Fucking people always, find some way to go back to them. Stop thinking about the cookie jar. It's broken. You're just cutting yourself now, okay? So, that's how you dissect the flaws of the cookie jar and her half of the glass. Now what do? Well, you're free. You can do whatever you want, right? Once you practice that enough, you're okay. If you want to be totally alone and go be a monk in the woods and gain enlightenment, I advise that. That's probably the best option. But if you're not going to do that, that's fine. You can take it slow. Go find another cookie jar. And take all the lessons that you had from your experience of creating the glass, creating the cookie jar with her glass, the process of it breaking, after it If it broke, you know, you were reaching into the glass and cutting yourself. Remember all of that. And then when you go into the new relationship and form a new cookie jar, realize, okay, one day this glass is going to break. If it's not because we break up, it's because one of us dies. So at some point, the cookie jar is going to break. But because you know that, you're not going to attach so hard. And then if it does break, you know, for personal reasons, then you're going to go, you know, you're only going to reach into the broken glass and lick the crumbs of the cookie because, you know, you're addicted to cookies, you're the cookie monster, and it's crack cocaine for you. You're only going to do that for 2 months. And last time you did it for 2 years. Well, hey, I just saved you, I'm trying to do math right now. 2 years is 24 months, so it's 2 months. I just saved you 22 months of suffering. Of crack cocaine addict, I need the cookies. I just saved you a bunch of time. Well, actually, you did it, right? I just told you how to do it. You did the work, right? So save yourself the suffering by recognizing the flaws in her and the flaws in the relationship. And realize that while you're doing that, any sort of pain and lingering attachment you have to the relationship is literally you cutting yourself by looking for the cookie, by reaching your hand into a pile of broken glass. So stop doing it. And once you realize you're hurting yourself, you'll automatically stop doing it. But you're going to have to keep practicing that imagery and repeating it to yourself until you see very clearly that watching those sad movies, listening to that sad music, wondering what could have been, if you had been better, if she had been better, maybe in the future, all of these imaginations and hopes and cravings are doing nothing but creating pain. So fucking stop it. I hope I have taught you how to stop freaking attaching to a broken relationship. And the real lesson of this that you should start to ponder is why you think that you need a cookie jar to enjoy the cookie. So once you're done with all of that, start pondering on that, and you might come up with some very interesting insights. But like I said, that's another topic for another video. So Hector Castillo, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, check out my description for all of my courses and products and books. And yeah, I hope I can help you, and I hope that I can relieve some suffering for you, because I don't want you to suffer. All right, cool. I'll see you. Love you.